Oh boy, here we go. This is the beginning of what is going to be quite a long journey, in my opinion. That's right, I'm playing through all the Assassin's Creed games, and, well, let's start with the first one, of course. This is Assassin's Creed. Don't go away. So as I said in the intro, yes, I am starting the playthrough of the Assassin's Creed. I have the first 4 on PS3 currently, which is Assassin's Creed 2, and then I think Brotherhood and Revelations. If you remember when this game came out, it was kind of a big thing. Big enough that even my dad was watching the trailer. In fact, that's how I actually found out about this game. He ended up showing me this trailer for this super cool looking game. And to be honest, the trailer is kind of one of the best game trailers I've ever seen.
Wow, I just got chills.
But wait! There's more!
But how's it play? Well, it's quite simple, in fact. It goes without saying that you play as an assassin. So you get a mission, you ride out to the city, you go up onto the look tower to scout what kind of area you're in. Once you finish with the lookout tower, you will unlock a way to collect information about your target. Once you finish that, you know where your target is. Then you go and assassinate. You do that 10 times over, then you run to the credits. That's literally it.
What do you know of my work?
I know that you are going to murder Richard and claim Akka for your son Conrad.
But as usual, it's way more than that simple cycle. So let's break it down a little bit, just so this review isn't like 5 minutes long. So to start, the ride between cities is kind of boring because it's just empty land. Yes, there's a few civilians walking through, and there's a few enemies that'll just yell at you and then try and attack you, but you're on a horse, so you're 10 times faster. And yes, there are flags to collect. Now, maybe you do get something after you collect all the flags, but the sheer amount of flags you have to collect is in like the 100s in some areas, and damn me to hell if I'm going to spend my like hours searching for these flags. So I really had no incentive to look for anything in the open area. But the game does remedy this because you unlock fast travel pretty damn quick. Now, this one genuinely shocked me. The idea of a lookout tower to scan an area to unlock like it on your map is nothing new to me. It might have been new at the time, but I've seen it done in a lot of games. Far Cry, Tomb Raider, stuff like that. You would think a lookout tower would do an expansive area, but it's basically just like one block of area. Like in a small area, like for the map size of some of these areas, I would expect 3, 4, maybe 5 towers. What I got was like 15, 20. I think the game could have had a much better pacing to affect its staleness at times with cutting down on the lookout towers and just having, I know the game has to have a lookout tower for information. So just have a lookout tower give you 3 ways to find information instead of having 1 per lookout tower. Now, I've mentioned ways to get information twice now, so what is that about? Well, the people who are connected to the person you're supposed to assassinate has information on him. They know where he is, what he's doing, what his weakness is, stuff like that. You can go about this by interrogations, which is pretty much beat the guy until he talks.
I have nothing to say to you.
Pickpockets, which is one of my favorites. You basically listen in on a conversation, and then when he walks off, attempt to pickpocket him. It can be quite intense, actually, no joke. Information favors, which is basically somebody has information that you need, and you can have it if you do a favor for them. And eavesdropping, which is my personal favorite because it's by far the easiest. Sit on a bench near a couple of guys and just listen in their conversation. Boom. I think there was one more, but I don't remember it, so it probably wasn't that great.
He's a coward. If it wasn't for the money, I'd be long gone.
You're either stupid or blind. Maybe it's both.
After you've collected enough information, you may now go and assassinate your target. And unsurprisingly, oh wow, the best part of Assassin's Creed is assassinating people. Call me crazy psycho man, but there's just something really cool about standing in the crowd, listening to a man speak, when you know in about 5 minutes you're going to be about a foot away from putting a blade into his back. It's almost like primal feeling. The feeling of you're on a hunt and you're close to an animal and it has absolutely no idea it's already dead. Every time the mission came up to assassinate someone, it was like the best part of the game, and that really is what got me sort of addicted to Assassin's Creed here. Sure, the way to get to the assassination isn't the absolute most fun, but doing the assassinations is great. Not to mention, after you assassinate someone, you get a really great cutscene. You pretty much cradle a guy on his deathbed and he just talks, and you really get a huge amount of character out of that. Little things like that add way more than people realize.
What brotherhood?
Al-Mualim is not the only one with designs upon the Holy Land. And that's all you'll have from me.
Then we are finished. Beg forgiveness from your god.
He's long abandoned us. Long abandoned the men and women I took into my arms.
What do you mean?
Beggars, whores, addicts, lepers.
Now, movement in this game is, in my opinion, 70% good, 30% bad. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. You can do a lot of things that I guarantee. How many times have you heard people say, oh, there's no way someone could do that? Well, it's a game. Who cares? But climbing around buildings, climbing up towers, jumping across, doing parkour, really fun. Most of the time. Sometimes your guy just jumps into a spot where you had no idea. He obviously wasn't supposed to go there. And sometimes when you're running away from people, the game can get a bit sticky with its movement. Like you're running away and then you accidentally barely touch something and then you just wall bounce off and you're just fucked at that point. Now, at times when you're not stealth assassinating people, you can still fight in this game straight up sword-on-sword combat. And I actually really like the combat here, as simple as it is. Now, the game does give you a lot to work around with. Short sword, throwing knives, long sword, fists. You can grab opponents can grab you, and you can counter that. Light attacks, heavy attacks, but most importantly, the counters.
Ooh, yeah.
Basically, all I did in fights was just hold the counter button, and when I saw an attack coming, counter. After that, do a heavy attack because the enemies don't usually attack after you counter, and rinse and repeat. And it's only fun because the counter animations are pretty badass. Now, whether you call this a pro or a con or just a sign of the times, this game was, I believe, 2007. If I'm wrong, you'll see it on screen here. But this game has got to be the most gray looking game I think I've ever seen in my life. Now, it kind of adds to the atmosphere of like the old times where everyone's poor and there's famine and stuff like that, but everything's gray and everything looks okay. Nothing pops in this game. The cities look okay. There's some distinguishing factors, but if you put me in the middle of a city and you put me in the middle of a different city, like if you go from Damascus to Jerusalem, I would be like, yeah, they look the same. You can sort of tell where you are though, because they have middle, rich, and poor districts. And, when you're going from the poor to the rich district, you can see a visible difference. And arguably the most famous thing, and the thing that really does pop out of this game, is the eagle dives off of look towers. Yeah, the first eagle dive I did to the last one never got old. Sound design, everything's good. Voice acting, though, I actually have to talk about, because I genuinely really enjoyed it. You spend a lot of time in this game with dialogue. Whether you're listening to dialogue of the guys on their deathbed due to the wrong end of Altair's blade, or just doing an eavesdrop, or getting missions from your master, or just talking to regular in-town folk, voice acting is aplenty in this game, and it really never got old. unless you do save the civilians. You see, there are certain civilians in the game that are under distress from the local police force, I guess you could call them. Save these people and they will do a favor for you. But the thing is, the dialogue that Ubisoft gave out was the exact same line of dialogue to like 50 different voice actors, and I'm not kidding.
Praise God, you've saved me. All the city will know of your sacrifice. God, you've saved me. All the city will know of your sacrifice. The city will know of your sacrifice.
I call it the copy and pastinator.
And something that I was really hoping for, maybe because I've been spoiled by the inner streets of Novigrad from The Witcher 3, but I was hoping for a little bit of music. The only time I could really think of some ambient music that I was aware of was in the very first city. You can hear a tiny bit of stuff in the background. But considering the amount of stealth you'll be doing, so you're not into open action, you're just kind of relaxing and following some subject, I'm surprised they didn't really lean into the atmospheric music. So, my overall thoughts on this game, I gotta be honest. I don't think this has the most intense, insane gameplay. But personally, for me, I was sort of addicted. Don't get me wrong, I do really like this game. But I will say this. I got frustrated a few times. After you get caught by enemies, please, in future Assassin's Creed games, just give me an option to just automatically restart at the last checkpoint. There was times where I was trying to do an assassination or just a basic mission, and I would get caught. Well, what do you have to do? You have to break the line of sight and find a spot to hide in. Problem is, it's not like there's 1,000 spots to hide. And there's rooftop guards, there's guards on the ground, you're continuously running into guards. So about 50% of the time when I would get caught, I would just take the L and just take hits until I die. Because that was way quicker to take my health, singular hits by the way, from max to 0, and then you go into second chance mode, then I die, reload at the checkpoint, then trying to find a spot to hide, and then coming all the way back to restart the mission. This is also frustrating, but by design, so I like it. There's civilians in the game that are psychos. Like, they're seriously walking around with like rabies or some shit. I don't know. But they walk around and they'll just push your player for no reason. And I got so frustrated at points, I was laughing my ass off so hard because I'm trying to tail a guy to pickpocket or something, or assassinate, right? And there's this psycho in my way, just pushing me away. And if I stab him or act suspicious, the guards get on my ass. And the other half of this is the civilians that ask for money. And they don't stop. I mean, beggars can't be choosers. They've never heard of that phrase. They say beggars can beg until they get their money. Now, the last thing to mention, which if you played Assassin's Creed, you're probably wondering why I haven't mentioned it, is that the game's actual story takes place in modern times. I don't really want to get into it because it would just take way too long, but there's a doctor and his assistant who's got this guy Desmond in an animus, and what it does is it unlocks past memories, which is where you're playing as this guy here. Now, that's literally all I'm going to talk about because it doesn't really play that big of a role. It is interesting story-wise, but all it does is leave you with the fattest cliffhanger humanly possible. But overall, I mean, Assassin's Creed I had a great time with. It had good city atmosphere, a decent, at times stale pace, and more importantly, a fresh story. With all the remasters, prequels, sequels, and everything else in between nowadays, it was sort of interesting to go back and just play a brand new idea. Sure, the game was a bit bland in some areas, but this is the first Assassin's Creed, and I was still sort of addicted to it. So overall, I'm looking at a good solid 7.5 out of 10. Back at the game case says, master the art of the kill. I may not have mastered it, but I had a lot of fun. Now, Assassin's Creed 2 is next, but that's not the next game I'm playing. I am playing back in time, even further back than 2007. I'm going with Banjo-Kazooie. So, never played it before, should be fun, should be interesting, stay tuned for that. But for now, I'm your host, Sarah Planet Entertainment, and Obvious Review. Peace out.
Why? Why have you done this?
Men must be free to do what they believe, It is not our right to punish one for thinking what they do, no matter how much we disagree.
Then what?
You of all people should know the answer. Educate them. Teach them right from wrong. It must be knowledge that frees them, not force.
They do not learn. Fixed in...
What is up? I know what you're thinking. You're only here for the bonus Easter egg soundtrack I put in at the end of every video. But did you also know I have a donation page under Buy Me a Coffee? Donate whatever you want to my channel and I'll put half that back to an environmental charity. So that's that. Enjoy the music. Peace out.